Good morning. Good morning.
Hello.
How's everybody doing today? Welcome to day 2 of ERRF. Woohoo! Been a good show. I'm trying to get this voice back in order already. It's already gone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Pooch. I own a small company called Repkord. We make fine filament furniture. And every week, with my partner in crime here, Andrew from 3D Gloop,
hey everyone.
The lead scientist of the Empire of Sticky, we do a podcast called Maker That Money. So a lot of these shows are very focused on, obviously making and all the cool things that we like. And I always felt like there was a good opportunity to talk about maker entrepreneurship in particular. So a lot of people kind of get their start here. I know we got our start at this show. I know you got your start at this show.
Yeah, we started right here.
Little closer.
Yeah, sure.
So this whole podcast that we started doing started as just a phone call.
Yep.
A series of phone calls between Andrew and I said, even if this seems like interesting information, let's just record it. And we've been doing it now. We have 35 episodes or something like that. I think this might be 33 or 34, something like that.
Somewhere around there.
So today we're just going to try to record a live version of what we do every Friday. If this is of interest to you, if you have maker entrepreneurial interests and whatnot, we always disclaim that we don't pretend to have it all figured out. But we do enjoy sharing our journey, and it's a call-in show, so people can call and ask questions. Yep. We also record live every Friday on YouTube, so if you just want to get on the chat, you can do it that way. Yep. Today's episode, we're kind of doing a bring back of a favorite, which is very appropriate to this event, and it's how to make money with 3D printing. So, just a little housekeeping before we kind of actually officially start. We only have 30 minutes for this one. We usually do 60, so we're probably going to go a little bit fast. We're not going to have an opportunity, unfortunately, to take questions at this one, but please, if you have questions, you can find us in each of our booths. Clayton, our guest today, Uncle Jesse for real, you may know him. He'll be walking around as well, too, so fantastic resource also. And here we go. You guys ready?
Woohoo!
All right. This is our first live recording of this, too, so we'll see how it goes.
It's going to be terrible.
You think so? I think it's going to be great.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right. So without further ado, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 34 of Maker That Money. I am Pooch of Repkord, and with me today,
I'm Andrew of 3D Gloop.
and our special guest.
I'm Uncle Jesse. I make videos about 3D printing on the interwebs.
Very concise intro, Clayton.
Yes.
Clayton.
Thank you.
Also known as Clayton, if you want to
Yes.
call him by his birthday.
If you want to talk secret identities.
So, Clayton, we're very lucky to have you with us today because I don't know anybody out there that does both the content creator and the entrepreneurial hustle the way that you do.
I'm trying.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that today you can share some tips for us and some experiences that you've had, and maybe just give us a quick background about how you got into not just content creation, but like taking it to the next level and learning how to monetize and actually run a proper business.
Man, first of all, before I even jump into that, I love what you guys are doing because it fits perfectly. This whole discussion fits perfectly into the community because everybody's very open and shares, hey, I've got this printer, here's some mods, here's things I can do to make it work better, here's upgrades, here's just tips and tricks. And that's exactly what you guys have done here, but more on the business side of things, which is people want, like there's no set of resources out there for people to find. We're just, as you mentioned, we're just figuring it out as we're going with this.
Yeah, and Andrew, I think you can speak to this too. That we recognize that
absolutely.
we had a kindred spirit, and we love making this community bigger by involving other people and being a resource. And because there aren't resources, what better way than to try to just make our own resources?
I mean, listen, like Pooch just said at the top, we don't have it all figured out. We're just kind of, figuring it out as we go. And we figured, hey, maybe we could talk about this and see if people find it interesting. Hopefully you learn something.
I find it hugely interesting, and it's again one of those. I'll jump into this here where it's a great opportunity if you have a machine or if you're interested in 3D printing. I'm assuming most people listening or watching this live have 3D printers. There is huge opportunities to actually turn some of the things that you're either designing or printing into something that you can make a profit of. I'm not saying that you can immediately tomorrow quit your day job, but for me, starting out, I had 3D printers on hand, and I was like, hey, how can I afford more filament for more projects? All right, well, let me turn around and try and start selling some prints online just to make enough money to
fund the hobby.
buy more, right, to buy another printer or buy more filaments or more resin. It's the never-ending cycle of buying stuff here.
For sure. So really quick, guys, show of hands out there. How many of you guys justified the purchase of your first 3D printer thinking, like, I'm going to sell stuff to pay for this printer? All right. Just so for those listening back after, we've got
that's great.
Maybe 50% of the crowd raising their hand. Right. And I remember back in the day when I first got started, 3D Hub. You guys remember 3D Hubs? It was kind of a thing, and I was like, okay, you can put your printer at what printers you have, and then basically make yourself available to farm out parts. And I did that, and made a couple $100, but it was nothing like we expected originally. So I don't know. Maybe talk about when you first got started. Were there some false starts?
Oh yeah, there's. I mean, when I first got started with it, I started 3D printing back in 2015, and that was my idea as well. I was like, all right, well, I can start printing small cosplay things or little trinkets that people would be interested in buying. Of course, things aren't printing correctly, or I sell things. Someone I list something, I go to ship it to them, but the printer's not working correctly, so I'm scrambling to get things printed and out to them. It's a vicious cycle, but eventually that's again way back in 2015 to 2018. But things have gotten progressively easier, in my opinion, to work with.
I agree.
Printer-wise.
Well, I'm glad you said that because the theme of today is making money in 3D printing in 2022,
not 2015.
Not 2015, right? So what I'm hoping we can do is maybe give some of these people some actionable things.
If you're let me jump ahead here.
Go jump away.
I am wildly supportive of people making content. Whatever you're making and wanting to sell, post about it online. If you're selling little trinkets, make a little video, post it to TikTok. You never know what's going to absolutely blow up and drive traffic to whatever it is that you're trying to sell.
It's some of that sweet viral internet sensation, right?
Literally anything can pick up, and I have no rhyme or reason how it works.
It just happens.
Yeah, I'll make a little post. I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna go do so well, and nothing happens.
Nothing.
And then I'll make a video about a failed print that will get like 1 million views.
Right.
And then people are like, oh, where can I buy that?
Right.
And oh, okay. Now I'm scrambling to try and get that listed and up and running or printed to now meet the demand of that.
So I'm gonna just talk about the elephant in the room here because this dovetails in this dovetails in really well. So basically what you're saying is build like a 400,000 viewer subscriber following
so you
on
gotta
YouTube.
Spend 10
and then
spend 10 years and
building
then
a YouTube
after
channel.
10 years, no, thankfully it's not that hard. I do have a little bit of an edge when it comes to publishing something and initially getting views. Like, I'm not going to discredit that at all.
I don't think you can gloss over that fact. I think that's a big advantage.
But what I will say is there are products that I have been selling for like 4 years that I never post about. And they're continuously...
Just cash cows, huh? Just kind of...
Just continually evergreen. Just people are buying and printing things. Right, and seasonal stuff is... It's just wild to me. Like right now, obviously, we're in October. Halloween's rolling around the door.
It's spooky
I do cosplay-related Halloween things that are just... they sell continually all year, but leading up into October...
This is prime time.
It's prime time.
Yeah.
It's insane.
So talk about that for a second, if you will. So I think some of you have you guys seen? He did was it a short or a TikTok or when you talked about the ghosts that you just sold and you made $4,000 and
So I did make a quick YouTube video about how in 1 weekend I sold over $4,000 worth of a 3D printed ghost to people online.
That's revenue.
That's no. Yeah, revenue. Yeah.
Okay, not
then,
including expenses.
No. And it came out to a little over like almost $3,000, I think, between fees and shipping and all that other stuff.
Okay.
Still very good.
That's a healthy margin.
That was me piggybacking off of another creator who I saw his video go viral, and I was like, hey, I want in on this as well.
Jump on the bandwagon.
Sure.
So decided to jump in and make my own post about his thing, which also, like, since his was going viral, mine was getting a fraction of the amount of views that he was getting, but still people were seeing it.
So is that a strategy you would recommend?
That
like
is
writing
1,000% a strategy. If someone else is blowing up with something, jump on it as quickly as you can.
So you don't necessarily even have to have an original idea.
No.
You're just riding the wave.
So here's the whole reason why I made my ghost video recently was because I had so many orders coming in that I pushed out my delivery dates beyond October, and people are still buying it. And I'm like, if you have a printer and want to make money, people are trying to buy these right now and get them next week. So you could charge a premium for that, or charge more, or rush order, to get those out to people in advance of what some of other people, myself and others, were
And
printing.
you started doing variants too, didn't you? Like bigger ones, or there's options to.
So it's a Boy in Space was the one that I piggybacked off of, and I saw that he was doing tiny ones, and I did not huge. I did 400% scale ghosts.
Right.
And so was selling, and they were wildly popular. But my 400% scale takes a good bit longer to print.
Sure.
So you didn't do the business
than the
side
small. I was like, well, in hindsight, I probably should have stuck with the small ones. You could maximize. That's actually a really smart thing to think through.
Yeah.
When this is how, in hindsight, like if I could compare my sales to It's a Boy in Space, which I don't know what he sold his at, but I know for sure he's able to print way more in 8 hours than I'm able to print. I'm able to print one ghost in 8 hours, and he's able to print 20 ghosts in an hour or 8 hours.
Okay.
So the profit side, there's a good bit of offset.
So there's some operational efficiency there. And
that you just need to sit back and think through.
Okay.
So let's bring it back to business now for a second. So obviously, one way to make money with 3D printing, the low-hanging fruit that I think a lot of us see is like, let's find something that might be popular right now. You are very well known for like a movie is coming out.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, what's in the zeitgeist right now? What's really hot right now? Let's find something to print and ride that.
I literally have a whiteboard in my at my house, at my studio, with upcoming movies that I'm interested in, that are coming out in the next 6 months, 12 months that I know of, and I'm trying to plan projects around those. And that's the same thing for anybody that's interested in, if you have 3D modeling skills, looking at some of those things to try and get ahead of the curve, so that when when whatever that is comes out, you're prepped and ready for that to go. So as people are searching for Thor: Love and Thunder, I have a Thor: Love and Thunder project, and like waiting, ready to go.
So
or products ready to go.
So here are two really good tips in that. Is one, and we talk about this all the time, Andrew, you can't gloss over the organizational aspect. Like when you're doing this for a living.
I'm wildly unorganized.
Well, I think we all are. I think that's just
wildly
part of the maker ethos is the lack of organization. So raging against that. But starting with something simple, get yourself a whiteboard, get a chalkboard, whatever, write down notes, put it in your phone as you have ideas, and try to help that drive your just do 5 minutes of brainstorming, and you'll be surprised what you come up with. And then you can start pairing out. You said, like, okay, now here's all my ideas. Now what's going to be practical for me to do? The other piece that I think is really important, you said, what are things that I am into? And I think that is really important because that your passion then translates over to it. So when you are doing it, you're genuinely excited. So if you're excited about it, I guarantee you there is an audience out there that is also excited about it. And
1,000%.
That very much comes through in your videos. Like when you're doing and it doesn't take much to get started to do a short or a TikTok.
The best thing in the past few years is the short form content. You don't have to spend a week shooting and editing and making a long
compiling footage.
You take out your phone. You don't need a special camera. You don't need a special microphone. Your cell phones have video. all of my TikToks, my YouTube shorts, I just use my phone and then use the in-app editors to edit and then slap on whatever soundtrack I can find and those and post it. It's like a 30-second thing.
And we talk about this on the show a lot. We say MVP. It's minimum viable product. The biggest thing, the biggest hurdle is to just start doing something. Don't worry if you don't have the pro camera, the pro audio. Today? What can you get done today? How do you get your start?
Even things like your product photos, for me, all of my product photos in my Etsy shop are just from my phone. And I have a nice camera that I record all my videos on. I don't use that for any of that.
Right.
I was like, whatever's the quickest and easiest. And I'm like trying to snap what I think is like a good,
sure, you take an honest effort, right? But again, it's what can you get done right now in this moment.
I don't want to spend a half an hour to an hour posting. I want to get the listing up and then see how it does.
Well, I guess you have to ask yourself, how much extra does that bring in by putting in all of that time to get that perfectly dialed in look or that photo? In all honesty, probably not much.
When I've spent the time trying to perfect especially a short video, they've never done well. But it's always hey, let me whip up my camera real quick and talk about
when you least expect it. Is when it does the best.
Here's how to unclog your 3D printer. Oh, I didn't realize that was going to do so well.
Yeah.
And then it was literally, hey, what are you printing in that video? And I was like, oh, well, here's a link to the shop where you can buy one of those.
Right. So the name of the game then is volume in that sense, because you can spend all this time and effort trying to get something out there and it's not going to work. And then something you spent 2 seconds on might. So you need to play the numbers game then to some extent.
And by the way, you don't feel like you have to be like me and standing in front of your camera and talking and be all up in here. No, if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. All these platforms, you can literally just post whatever you're of the product and then text. You can write text overlay or talk over it and it'll auto do the text for you.
Voiceover.
You don't have to show yourself at all if you're uncomfortable being in front of the camera. You don't have to do that.
There's a wildly successful YouTube channel I love called This Old Tony, if you guys are into machining and stuff, and it's just his hands. And he's got a huge following and stuff like that, so you don't have to be a face. I think that's a really, really important point to take.
It's intimidating for a lot of people. I mean, it was intimidating. If you go back and watch my first set of videos, I'm like, so, hi, we're going to be looking at this Xbox game here. Very uncomfortable.
But the message of you can't undervalue the importance of getting some messaging out. Like you are your salesperson. The product, when you're starting, is you and you are your product. And we are so lucky to have these tools in this day and age that allow us potential for massive reach.
It honestly, I can't understate how amazing it is to me that literally anyone can go from no following to a massive following with just a handful of posts, or not even the following, but just the reach ability for that in a short amount of I'll go back to It's a Boy in Space, Ben. He started posting TikToks beginning of 2021, I think.
Okay, so
he now has about a year ago.
Half.
He now has like almost 5 million followers on TikTok.
That's incredible.
I was like, what the hell? This is insane.
Sure. So obviously we know the power of social media. A lot of you, maybe you're into Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, none. Maybe you want to do email outreach.
By the way, you don't have to use those platforms at all. One thing that I'm in a bunch of different Facebook 3D printing groups, and some of those are about selling things.
Right.
Facebook Marketplace, just trying to sell things that you're making locally, has worked out so well for a lot of people. Or I keep saying I'm going to try it out myself, but like selling those ghosts on a local neighborhood Facebook group, you could probably sell a handful of those. Again, you don't necessarily have to sell thousands of dollars of something right off the bat, but if you can make enough money to buy 2 rolls of filament, that's awesome.
It continues it continues the cycle, right?
Sure. Yeah. So finding an audience wherever it may be, whether it's social media, whether it's locally, maybe you're into going to trade shows or craft fairs or your local farmers market. A lot of times I've seen so much awesome craft stuff, and they're always looking for other ways to bring people into those types of events.
And then Another big tip that I have for people is there are lots of design. Like, I'm not a 3D designer. I have horrible skills when it comes to that. There are some amazing folks that have Patreons or other options that allow you to download, print, and sell their model. And there's like a huge span of things that you could potentially look into.
Sure. So yeah, let's talk about that for a second, just to be clear, because obviously you guys know that not all models that are out there are able to be used for commercial purposes. So you pick items where the designer says, you know what, rather than make these myself, and there's a lot of them out there. You guys have seen the Cinderwind dragons have been really hot. This ghost has been there's a million of it. You did a bunch of Loki horns. You can pay to license these, just like a lot of other things, and that's one strategy for making money with a 3D printer.
Correct.
Let's go ahead. You want?
No, I was going to say I've also I've seen a model that someone has produced, and I will directly reach out to that person, and if they don't have it available to sell, I will try and work out a deal with them of, hey, I'm interested in selling this. Can we do some sort of revenue share?
Sure.
That's a great idea.
I'll give you 10%, 8% of the profits, and
that really hones in on the value of the community, right? That you're going to get a lot further, a lot faster by finding ways to help promote, because now it's in that person's interest as well.
Yes.
For you to sell it because they have skin in the game as well. It's not always going to work, but it's a great.
And for them, it's passive income.
That
they've done the model once, and now I'm every month giving them a kickback.
And a lot of times they'll probably help market it. Like, hey, look at what Uncle Jesse did with our mount. You know, we have Fotis Mint has been over at our booth signing, and Charo, if you guys haven't met Charo Zuck, is a prolific Fotis Mint model printer and painter, and it's just such a great synergistic thing. I know Fotis is just really excited to have him, and you know, so it's neat to see that community help each other.
For sure, there's a lot of that community aspect here of just, again, helping out, sharing, and it's the whole idea here is I've always been like, if I have anything that I can help get out there for someone else to do similar things or make money with this, I want to share that. There's tons of room for people. It's not like, oh, there's 5 people selling there's a million people selling dragons now, but
so many dragons.
But at the time, it was like, oh, 5 people are selling dragons. I shouldn't. No. There's like, go out there. People are interested in these things.
So, show of hands in the audience here. How many of you guys have a business and have started trying to print and sell things, whether it's on Etsy, on your own website? Wow. Okay, so again, maybe half here.
Amazing.
Okay, so that is one strategy. So I want to say, that is one strategy for 3D printing and making money. It's not the only one, right? Mm-hmm. I know your product is specifically more in support of 3D printing. So you're very obviously related because your adhesives are specifically for 3D printing.
Yeah, well,
so there's tons of ideas that support the industry.
There's a ton of people printing that need stuff to get put together.
What we found was when we got into 3D printing back, in 2012, we were doing prototyping and real engineering, and we always had an issue of like, how do we glue these things together? How do we make this stuff
Super
work?
glue is not great.
and yeah, so what we found was like there was a better way to do something, and we took a step back and we said, wait a second, maybe someone else would be interested in this. And we took a shot. We literally just took a shot in the dark and said, hey, what could we do today that gets this thing out? Like, let's do like a Kickstarter. Let's go to this thing called ERRF that no one's ever heard about. You know, maybe we'll talk about our product. And then boom, it blew up. And it all came from, again, working directly with these 3D printers and saying, hey, here's a problem that we're having. Let's reach out to the community, see if other people are having this issue, and it just kind of spiraled from there.
Yeah, so when you guys are thinking about, how many of you are not currently running a business but maybe thinking about making the leap at some point? Okay, couple show of hands. Okay,
awesome.
Good. So obviously you're probably spending a lot of time thinking about, well, what is it that I want to do, right? You're trying to, and I'm like, how do we give people some tangible ideas for brainstorming things that they can take to the next level?
I wish I had a solid answer.
You are no help. You could just pass.
Well, I mean, again, I think it goes back to what you're passionate about. Mm-hmm. So for me, I'm passionate about. Originally, I make YouTube videos about 3D printing. Before that, on my channel, I was making Xbox videos because I still play a lot of video games. Like every night, I dedicate at least an hour so I can get on and play Xbox. But when I was interested in trying to make something and sell something 3D printing wise, I was like, what's Xbox related that I'm interested in that I know other people that play games would be interested in? So I was selling controller stands and other little
controllers. Yeah.
And then I had a little someone else designed a steering wheel, and that was a revenue share.
Sure.
I was like, hey, I want to sell those. Can we work out a deal? And it's worked out. I'm still selling those. I did that 4 years ago at this point. It's still selling those. Yeah.
Okay, good. So one, passion. What is your passion? What is it that you know? What is it you're bringing that's the secret sauce? What do you got?
I think for me, the biggest one is don't be afraid to fail. We learn so much more from failure than we do from the successes. The success and the wins are huge, right? And that's the motivation piece. But, you know, when we were developing our formulas, we failed time and time and time again. And I didn't know if we were ever going to get it right. But we just kept working at it, work that problem, keep trying, and, you know, you'll find something that sticks, pun intended.
I want to jump in for 2 seconds on the failing aspect, because I have a selling failure story. It's real quick.
We got more time. We're good.
Last fall, the Dragons kicked off. I was like, I want to sell dragons. I'm going to sell resin 3D printed dragons, and I sold a lot in 1 week, like a lot, hundreds. And so I was like, oh, I've got a bunch of resin 3D printers. I can print on all of them, and I can print one on each, and it takes me about 30 minutes to an hour. Oh man, I'm going to crank this out. Just crank it out in no time.
No problem.
All right, part of it failed. Oh, all right, I got to reprint it. Oh man, all right, now I've printed all these. Now I need to clean all of them. Now I need to cure all of them.
Off the supports.
Then I need to ship them. Yeah, and then it's like some are breaking, and then I'm shipping them out to people, and then they're like, oh, it broke in the mail, and I'm like, I'm never doing this again. That was my big learning experience. I was like, all right, resin, good, maybe not in the volume that I tried to do it in. Yeah.
No, the one of the things that I keep saying that is so awesome about this industry, additive manufacturing, 3D printing, and the tool sets that we have available to us in this day and age is that you have the ability to pivot like that. Right? So if something isn't working, you don't look at that as like, I have failed or whatever. It's just like, that didn't work, what's next? Repkord got its start just on Amazon selling white labeled filament and some nozzles and some accessories and stuff like that. And that was fine, but it wasn't, you know, that was a side hustle for a period of time. And it took me 2 years to really find something that I was like, no, this is, you know, when we started manufacturing our own stuff, that's when it really kind of clicked and the passion really, and it went from side hustle more like, maybe we got something here. So it may take some time is the other thing. It may not be right away. The things that you think, like you say, are going to do great.
You never know.
You never know, but you only fail once you start moving or stop moving, right? Yeah. So keep moving and pivot, and don't be ashamed to pivot.
You know, I think to build on that, you know, you'll become an overnight success in about 5 years, right? It takes so long to actually
a lot of grinding and working.
A lot of grinding. Yes.
You know, it's something where don't get discouraged by comparing yourself to maybe another or a different business or seeing someone else being able to do these things. You know, again, what you're not seeing is all of the effort, all of the late nights, all of, you know, just that grind. Yeah. And you're just seeing a small moment in a spotlight. And just use that as a motivation to yourself, saying, hey, I'm not where I want to be, but if I keep working at this, if I keep trucking along, keep traveling one foot in front of the other, I'm going to get somewhere. Because just as you said, you only fail when you truly stop moving. So don't stop moving.
So absolutely. I think one of the things that's a challenge, I know for me as a maker trying to transition into a business owner, was the intimidation of all of the administrative minutia that we don't want to deal with. Whether it's... Whether it's like, do I need to get a lawyer? Do I need to like fill out tax forms? And I was just like, I don't even want to do. I'm sure a lot of you guys probably feel that too, right? Like that is not what we are passionate about as makers. But the message I would convey is that it's not nearly as bad as you'd think. Mm-hmm. And two, there are more resources now than ever, you know, for just like how to get started. I mean, we have YouTube, we have all these other things out there that allow us to do that. So don't be afraid to spend a little time, and you will 9 times out of 10 go, oh, that wasn't nearly as bad as I thought.
One other, especially, I mean, they're very much business side of 3D printing. I'm more on the 3D print. Well, one part of it is 3D printing, just to making stuff and trying to sell that. And one question I get a lot from people is, do I need to buy and set up an LLC for myself in order to just sell stuff on Etsy? No, you don't. And I didn't for like 5 years.
Right. Yeah. We talk about minimum viable product all the time. Just getting started is the thing. And then see, like, how many of you feel like you're planners and you want to like outline the whole thing? Like, I try to play chess way too much, right? You're like, I'm trying to see 20 moves ahead. But the thing is, like, you're worrying about things that may not even be a problem because you're assuming that you're going to get to that point. Prove out that you have something first by just getting it out on Etsy. Like, Etsy is a great place to start. It's also very easy to start your own website these days.
Oh,
use
yeah.
Squarespace, use Wix, use any of those things, and just see how it sells and get yourself some actual data. Nothing will give you more confidence than actual sales data.
Absolutely.
So start selling, because you can do focus groups all you want. You can survey your friends and all this stuff, but at the end of the day, unless they're paying that hard-earned money, it's really worthless, honestly.
Exactly.
I don't want to say worthless, but you guys know what I'm getting at. There is nothing more concrete than that sales data.
And you know, to add to that point, a lot of this stuff can also be fixed at the end of the thing, right? If you get started and you realize that you have something successful, and maybe you weren't keeping track of receipts or expenses or anything else, you can always go back and correct a lot of these little mistakes or little errors. And you don't have to be worried that, you know, oh, hey, there's a man coming to get me because I didn't file this correctly, you know, or anything.
I mean, you don't even have to be things that I was overly concerned with. Oh, do I need, like, resin laps, our resin cable that Andrew Sink and I developed? Do we need packaging? Do we need to develop packaging for all this? Like, why are we stressing about this? Let's just see if it sells.
See if it sells
then
first.
We'll look into some of these things.
Yeah. And we've talked about this in past episodes too. We take on a lot of technical debt. So if you guys are familiar with the term technical debt, we talk about it all the time. It's basically you're borrowing against your future self, just saying, I'm going to fix that problem later. And sometimes it'll come back and really bite you in the ass. But a lot of the time, it's actually a good thing, because you're not wasting a bunch of time worrying about what's not a problem right now.
Exactly. Like, because, you know, you're going to waste a lot of your energy. You're going to waste a lot of that valuable resource of creativity of how do I get to that next level by worrying about things that you don't even need to worry about because you don't even know if it's going to work.
Okay, so we've talked about kind of the you can print things on your printer and sell them on Etsy. And yes, that's effective, but I think the bigger message that my takeaway would be, like, find your niche, right? So you can do that and you can make a lot of good money doing that, but you're obviously, if you're just trying to jump in and compete with Uncle Jesse here selling the same ghosts and stuff like that, like, figure out how to make it your own.
Yeah, how do you make it your own?
Yeah,
I mean, in my ghost video, I was like, hey, print them in different colors. Can you print it even bigger than me? Go for that. Can you do smaller ones or make them the same as mine, but paint the shoes? I don't know. So differentiate things.
Right. So just to let you know, they let us know the person after us decided he wasn't going to cancel, so we're going to go a little bit longer if that's okay. And if you guys have to leave, we're not offended. That's totally fine. We're just going to keep going a little bit. Make it your own. I want to pivot for a second because I think that a lot of people, that feels like the lowest hanging fruit with 3D printing. I'm going to print ready to be sold things, or maybe I'll print miniatures. There are a lot of people making a lot of good money doing Warhammer, doing all that other stuff.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Again, just keep at it.
Keep at it. But obviously, using a 3D printer as a tool, so we do a lot of print farming, okay? And we actually have multiple revenue streams as a result. It started because we were printing our own pieces for our own kits that were part of a greater product. So it's a tool set for us to make our brackets and our connectors for the storage boxes that we make. And then when we realized how much capacity we said, like, okay, let's sell some of that overflow, and we print for some automotive customers and stuff like that, and try to position ourselves more on a mass production level. So now we're talking about really, there are a million different ways you can make money with it, but don't limit yourself to thinking you have to print final product.
Right.
Sometimes it's just a step along the way, and there can be a lot more margin and profit to be had when it's part of a greater system.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's a company, you know, that's close to us in St. Louis that kind of did a very similar thing where they got into making filament. And they were doing some really cool things with their filament, recycled, but what they realized was that there wasn't a whole lot of money in it. And they had printers to test their filament, and all of this extra capacity they started leveraging and using for producing parts for other companies that needed rapid prototyping. Yeah. And they started working with universities, funding the research projects or whatever, like, hey, we need to have this mechanism printed. And so they would just farm it out to them and then send it over. So, you know, these are tools that you can really leverage in so many different ways that you don't instantly think about, I think.
No. You mentioned Resin Labs. I don't know, Uncle Jesse, you guys, is a tried and true hustler. Like, he is always looking to make a buck. He will sell out at the drop of a hat. And we love him so much.
He's looking to sponsor a video.
I mean, he's
running some ERRF specials.
Yeah. But you mentioned one of your partnerships with Andrew Sink, called Resin Labs. How many of you guys are familiar with Resin Labs? Have you seen it? It's such a beautifully simple product that came from a problem that you identified in 3D printing.
It was my problem that I had with. I'm hugely a big fan of resin 3D printing and made the shift a few years ago. And I make video content online, and there was no good way for me to make time lapses of resin 3D prints. So what I was doing was trying to set an auto capture on my camera to the interval of the printer, and then I was manually editing photos to try and create a time lapse. I was like, there's got to be an easier way for this.
Yeah.
And I'm not technical enough, and I'm friends with Andrew Sink, who's a very technical individual.
Level 77 wizard and everything.
So we, during the middle of the pandemic, we're over FaceTime. He's walking me through splicing wires, soldering wires. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I was like, this isn't going to be a pretty solder or anything like that. I was like, this barely will work. We're butchering 3D printers to try and make something happen. But initially, we were way over-engineering, trying to come up with a way over-engineered product.
Right.
And then sort of a light bulb went off, and we figured out a way to do it much easier.
Right.
That works pretty dang well for some cameras, not all cameras. Sorry, Sony users.
Yeah, and for those of you who aren't familiar with what it is, it's basically just a photo cell on the end of a wire that goes into your resin printer, and then every time that, the light triggers, it sends the signal to your camera shutter. So if you have a camera that has a remote shutter, and it's just beautifully elegant and simple, and you've made quite a product out of it.
Yeah, and it's something that we, will bulk develop and then have on hand, and then it's something that just continually sells.
It's evergreen.
The year. Yeah.
Yeah, but point being is your product doesn't have to be made with the printer itself.
Sorry, and then when we officially kicked it off, Andrew and I were like, how many people do you think would be interested in this? I was like, I don't know, 50, 100 people? I don't know.
Surprise.
Like, sold out of our inventory so fast, and then we're in a scramble to stock up on cables and get those in. But it goes back to what you guys were saying of, it's like, hey, don't get ahead of the cart until you actually start seeing sales come in, then start trying
make it a problem before you make it a problem.
Yep.
I was like, this isn't a bad problem for us to have.
You hear that all the time. Good problem to have. Good problem to have. It's such a cliche, obviously, but it is true. And the basis of that is just like, get to the problem and then solve it. Don't try to play chess too far ahead because you're going to waste a lot of time, right? We already covered that. There are a ton. We at Repkord sell a lot of product that is in support of the 3D printing industry, right? So we use the printers as a tool, but we use ourselves as our own guinea pig. And 9 times out of 10, if it's a problem for you, it's going to be a problem for other people. And there's just so much low-hanging fruit and opportunity for identifying product in there. And don't be afraid to try doing it. We have been very successful modding the CR30 belt printers like that Creality came up with, or offering mods to the Prusa. So look at who is doing it well and think about, is there something I can add to this? That is a fantastic way to come up with product ideas, guys.
I'm going to throw out a little product here. I'm not sponsored or anything like that, but I bought one. I bought one after I saw it on TikTok. The no clogger, the unclogger. Have you guys seen that? It's literally a wire with a 3D printed handle that you can jam. It's a really long wire that you can jam into your printer to help clear a clog. And it's so beautifully simple and stupid that I was like, this is a great idea. Are they going to?
It sounds like it should be an infomercial.
Are they going to be able to? Are they going to be able to retire from this? Probably not.
Right.
But I bet that project right there is helping supplement other things that they're working on, or buying more printers or something.
Sure.
Like that. I guarantee it's not a company. It's somebody sitting in their garage whipping these up and then shipping them out to people.
But that is such a good way to get a start, guys, because it's all about stringing base hits together. It's not about swinging for the fences immediately, because you will learn so much from doing that. It's funny you mentioned that, because one of the first products we actually made was a nozzle unclogging tool. It was just a series of different. I went to a company in China that was making luthier flutes for filing down like the nut on a bridge of a guitar. I said, hey, can you take the filing off of it, just make it a smooth rod, put it in a package, and then do it in 0.8, 0.6, 0.4. Yeah, sure, we can do that. And lo and behold, we had our first product. Learned a lot in what it takes to source from a vendor, package, all of that
now
stuff.
That's wild to me. Like the whole sourcing of products.
And it's not for the faint of heart.
I know.
Especially in this day and age,
Yes.
I'll tell you that. But like I said, lots of opportunities. Get your start. And like I said, there's no shame in starting as a side hustle and then seeing where you go with it. And you'll be surprised what opportunities come to you as a result of that.
Absolutely.
I think this is a good place to kind of wrap it all up with a bow. I want to thank everybody live who joined us
thank
today.
you guys for
I
listening.
really wish you guys the best. If you like what we're doing, you can please like and subscribe, follow us on Twitter, YouTube, all that. We do record this every Friday. Feel free to drop in when you can. Be in the chat. We love seeing you guys in the chat, feeding us questions or call in. But you can also find us on any major podcast platform. We're called Maker That Money. And I thank you guys for being here. Have a great rest of your show.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate it.